Very good evening, viewers. Very respected speaker of this evening, and my good friend, CA Joman K. George, immediate past chairman of Southern India Regional Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, coordinators of the program from Karpagam Academy of Higher Education, Dr. Dharmaraj, viewers of the program, very good evening to all of you. You will all appreciate that we have structured the topics in such a way that we intertwine the subjects with focus on the contemporary topics in the accounting profession for the first 2 days, followed with topics with emerging and futuristic areas in the next 2 days. The intent of the organizers to keep the viewers with the maximum knowledge dissemination on varied subjects, contrast in content, and to keep up the momentum of the program. Today we have come back to yet another subject connected directly to the accounting profession, the topic on audit and assurance engagements, and another core area designed to extract the faculty to nurture and guide the students in their institutions. A topic, faculties, how to motivate students to become the leaders. We are thankful to the resource persons, ever ebullient C.A. Joman K. George, immediate past chairman of SARC, and a noted scientist, Mr. V. Ponraj, the former advisor to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, former President of India, for accepting our request to be with us this evening and to enthrall all of us with their enlightening and enriching address. All are not born as leaders, but became the leaders with the touch of affection, attachment, and at the same time, inculcation of discipline and good traits and virtue of thought to them, with they were the young by their teachers. Audit engagement and assurance engagement, though looks complementary to each other, both have different connotation. While all audit engagements or assurance engagement are the same, it's not so. Where it comes to all assurance engagement, it need not to be audit engagements. This is the subtle difference between the two. In today's session, our viewers would have the benefit of hearing the concept of both, where and how they differ. The objective of assurance engagement from our learned speaker, C.A. Joman K. George, who has rich experience in this field. On behalf of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Coimbatore branch and the Karpagam Academy of Higher Education, I welcome the speaker, Joman K. George, to share his knowledge. It's time to introduce our speaker among the highly knowledgeable faculty members of this country. Today's speaker, fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India with 28 years of diversified practical experience. He was occupied the chairman of Southern India Regional Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in the year of 2019 and 20, which is the highest position in the southern region. Southern region consists of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, Karnataka, Andhra, and Telangana. He is the founder and the managing partner of JVR and Associates, an 8-partner firm specializing in corporate audits and consultancy. He is the mentor, Flip Macmillan Woods, a multidisciplinary accounting and consulting firm based in Dubai. He is the faculty for auditing at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and taught more than 10,000 CA students. He is the regular resource person on professional circuit on accounting and auditing standards and corporate audit. So far, he has done more than 800 presentations in various professional forums. He was the chairman of Ernakulam branch of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in the year of 2002 and 3. He has traveled extensively for many countries like UK, Middle East, the Far East. He has been assisting in many social activities, including Rotary Club, Kerala Management Association, and many more. In this good occasion, I welcome all the viewers for this excellent program. With these few words, I am very much happy to introduce the great speaker, and my good friend Joman K. George, the immediate past chairman of SARC, to the viewers of the program. I also thank the resource person for his gracious acceptance and sharing his knowledge and wisdom with this elite group of people. Now I request the speaker to address the viewers. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Jalabari, for the nice introduction. Greetings to all of you. The chairman of the Coimbatore branch of ICAI Karpagam, the organizing team consisting of Manaji, Dr. Jodi, Dr. Ganga, Dr. Murugan, and my very dear friend, Mr. Yamabrala, will be the chairman of the Southern Region of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of the next year. The vice chairman this year, Jalabari, and I'm extremely honored to be the first speaker with Dr. Conrad, a very long scientist, who joined in today to address the large number of faculty members of various colleges and institutions in this program, empowerment program, and faculty development program, jointly organized by the ICAI Coimbatore and the deemed university of the Karpagam Academy. The topic is audit and assurance engagements. Jalapati has very brilliantly laid down the backdrop in which we are discussing this paper. I've gone through the other technical papers which are being presented, which were some of them were presented and to be presented, and they are all very, very relevant from an empowerment standpoint. And therefore, it is quite fitting that we do this kind of periodical teaching, empowerment programs for the faculty members of the higher educational institutions. With this introduction, thanking the organizers for giving me this opportunity to interact with the intelligentsia, the teachers who are grooming the next generation. I move on to my presentation. I will do the slide share, which I think is already in front of you. With saluting the profession of teaching profession, with a quote from very, very renowned, though she was a physician, she was a social activist and an author and an anti-nuclear warrior, I can say. Jalapati, is the slide visible now? Can someone respond? Is the slide visible on full screen now?
Sir, visible.
Yes. The quote is a very striking and very impressive, very enlightening quote. Teachers, I believe, are the most responsible and important members of the society because their professional efforts affect the fate of the earth. I would say they determine the future of the generations to come. Helen Caldicott famously said, and I am a chartered accountant by profession, but a teacher by passion. I've been teaching for 20 years at the Ernakulam branch, where I'm stationed in Cochin, of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and various other branches. Even now, I'm a visiting faculty to many of the B schools in Kerala and addressed many student seminars. The students are very close to my heart. So are teachers. My mother was an English professor. She is no more. She was the first employee of Alfonso College, which is in Pala, and she has also taught. She started her career in Madurai, and she used to speak good Tamil. And interacting with Jalapati, and I have also started speaking reasonably good Tamil, but I don't want to attempt it this evening. And also that I did my articleship, which is a 3-year practical training for chartered accountancy in Chennai way back from 88 to 91. So this is what you are. You are doing a very significant but unadvertised job of grooming the next generation. You are the people who keep the sacred lamp of learning aglow for the generations and for the future of the country and of the whole world, and the extended version of Helen Caldicott is whole earth, the universe. So I have structured my presentation based on just a reference which I have made about the objectives as in the BCom syllabus of one of the reputed universities in South India. And BCom and MCom post-graduation and advanced version of this topic, audit and assurance. There's a subtle difference between an audit and assurance, which we'll see as we go by. Jalapati, am I audible enough? Loud enough? Would you
Yes,
like
sir.
to
Yes, sir.
have the some of the participants respond? Can some of you unmute and respond? Am I audible? Is it going okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
For you, yes. Others also hope, but it's okay. Otherwise, please stop me or please come up with your suggestions if there is a problem with the audio or the presentation. Hoping that it is clear for you, I'm proceeding with your permission to impart knowledge about auditing principles, procedures, and techniques in accordance with. Few things are very much highlighted there. I have highlighted it for you also. Current legal requirements, I would say current legal and regulatory requirements and professional standards. The auditing profession, which is largely dominated by chartered accountants, practicing chartered accountants like me and Jalapati across the country. We have 330,000 chartered accountants in the country now, of which about 35% are in practice. Others are serving industries, large corporations to small companies in various parts of the country. And we have a good number of Indian chartered accountants working abroad. In the Middle East, particularly from Kerala. Kerala has a Dubai Connect, UAE Connect. So even from US, Europe also now many countries, African countries, Indian chartered accountants are quite in demand. So therefore, that is the institute. The ICAI was set up in the year 1949. I'll come to that a little later. Barely 2 years after Mother India gained independence. Even before India became a republic, the profession came into existence under an act of the parliament. That shows the importance, significance which the fathers of our nation attached to having an organized profession of accountancy in the country. And 71 years down here, we are now proudly calling ourselves partners in nation building. We'll come to that a little later. Anything that happens here in the revolutionary reforms like GST, the profession has partnered and participated and effectively made all these transitions happen. Therefore, that is the profession of chartered accountants. And many of your students would, after their graduation, some of them even after their post-graduation, would blossom forth as chartered accountants. On that, let me move on to some of the audit basics. Whenever we want to learn something, and as teachers, when we want to teach something, we always look at asking these 3 questions. What is it? Why is it? And how is it? I will touch upon some of the basics and then I'll go to the legal framework. I'm seeing a lot of doctors in the sense that PhD holders. Therefore, some of the aspects may sound elementary, but that's just a takeoff. From there, we'll go to the right area of the regulatory framework as well as the professional requirements, as envisaged in the teaching methodology or the objectives of your work, if I can say that. Audit is primarily defined as an independent examination. Independent is very important. The auditor has to be independent. He is a judge on financial information, therefore cannot be an advocate of the management. Independent examination of financial information of any entity with a view to expressing an opinion thereon. Then the entity could be Reliance Industries, Infosys, right from there to a trust which is doing human charitable service in Coimbatore or in Cochin. But the objective of an audit is to express an opinion on the financial statements, independently examine the financial information. Financial information, the whole gamut of financial information consists of the balance sheet, the profit and loss account, today the cash flow statements, and the underlying accounting information, the books of accounts, the underlying vouchers, the source documents, the external statements, all those things. All those things are part of the financial information that carries some slightly wider connotation than financial statements. And this opinion of the auditor, this independent opinion of the auditor, who is an experienced, impartial and trained professional, helps to determine whether the financial statements give a true and fair view. Financial statements give true and fair view of the position through the balance sheet. Balance sheet is also referred to as a statement of affairs or a statement of position statement. So balance sheet, the position through the balance sheet, the operating results, either a profit or a loss through the P&L account, and the cash flows through the cash flow statement. This is the true and fair. This is a stamp of credibility which an auditor attaches to a financial statements audited by him before the management of a listed company holds it out to the public. And why? The second question is, why is an audit mandatory under the Companies Act? Because large corporations, we know the old joint stock concept, if you go back to the very early days of our learning, resources belonging to many, in terms of financial resources, are pooled together and entrusted to a handful of people called board of directors. So therefore, the board of directors are running the day-to-day business using the resources provided by a large number of people called shareholders. Now, most of the situations, you would, particularly those who have done research, would agree with me that the term shareholder is today getting effectively replaced for good reasons by the term stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders when it comes to the financial statements of, let's say, Reliance Industries Limited? A company which got 1,30,000 crores, 1.3 trillion rupees from various IT companies. They're investing in the Indian digital space through the Reliance Jio. And the only company in which Facebook and Google are invested together. Nowhere else they have invested together. They are said to be arch rivals. So Reliance Industries' financial statements are relied upon by the government, the financial institutions, the private equity participants, the investors like investing companies like Google or Facebook, the large number of shareholders, creditors who are dealing with them, students, academicians like you. So therefore, these financial statements should be reliable in terms of being true and fair, and also that they should be comparable. There are a lot of attributes associated with good set of financial statements. Reliability, comparability, readability, all that are good attributes of financial statements. So this is the backdrop. Why? Because and the trust, coming back to this trust, the income tax, Reliance, going back to Reliance, the income tax, the regulatory authorities, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, all of them are relying on these financial statements for the tax assessment to check whether there is compliance with the Companies Act and so on. And on a smaller scale, coming to the trust is in Coimbatore, which is there, the trust is a charitable trust, which is exempt from income tax. Sometimes the donations made to the trust is exempt under deductible under 80G of the Income Tax Act. Whether the transactions are maintainable, whether when the income tax does a scrutiny, the Commissioner of Income Tax does a scrutiny, or the registrar sees, the regulator sees the financial statements of the trust, whether they are maintainable, all those transactions are kind of proper and of a charitable nature to continue to be eligible for income tax exemptions and so on. So whichever angle you look at, irrespective of the legal form and size of an organization, audit is so much of an essentiality to ensure that the true and fair prevails. Now coming to the Indian scenario or the framework, which I have again extracted from my third slide, which was on the legal requirements and the professional publications, the focus of the teaching modules. The Companies Act 2013, which is now 7 years in existence, not yet a settled law. It replaced the Companies Act 1956 after so many years. And today also there are a lot of changes happening in that. And there are very clearly laid out provisions when it comes to auditing in Chapter 10 of the Companies Act 2013, sections 139 to 148. Then we have other types of audits also, which is tax audit. In fact, it is there in the syllabus. The tax audit, though abbreviated like that, it is audit under the Income Tax Act. We will see that a little later. GST audit, the goods and services tax, which is into play for the last 2 years. And 1st July, we celebrated the GST anniversary. Goods and services tax is said to be the biggest tax reform in the whole world. And so also in independent India, where 8 to 10 different indirect taxes. We used to have central sales tax, state GST, then the service tax, then the luxury tax. So many of them, all those things have been subsumed into one single tax called the GST. There have been implementation issues, but today our economy has become much more formalized, and GST collections are bordering a trillion rupees, 1 lakh crores a month, subject, of course, due to COVID and all that reduction in the activity. The economy is expected to shrink by so much because of 3-4 months of inactivity and reduced activity. So the IMF has come out with fresh predictions or fresh estimates of how global economy as well as Indian economy would behave post-COVID or the impact of COVID rather. So GST also, there's an audit requirement under GST. Internal audit, it is interchangeably used with management audit. It's also very, very important types of audits. That is what part of your teaching modules cover. And very importantly, the professional requirements, which say auditing pronouncements of ICAI in the form of standards on auditing and guidance notes. I would be only happy to share the slide with the Coimbatore branch of SARC, who has invited me, though there is a joint organizer, Karpagam Academy, so which can be shared with the participants. But if you have the email IDs or through WhatsApp, you can send this. I'll send the PDF version of this probably tomorrow. But then if you're making notes of this, like teachers tell the students, I'm telling the teachers that it would make sense to jot down what you consider relevant and important. This, what you're looking at, is the screenshot of the Companies Act 2013, Chapter 10. Before I go into that, let me tell you, the only way you should read the Companies Act today is by referring to the e-book. Or the printed books which we have, many of them are outdated. Companies Act is changing on a very, very dynamic, not yet settled, as I said. 7 years, but still a lot of issues, draconian provisions where they are all, today the new term they have used is the Companies Act is being decriminalized. Penalties are being softened. And with that, their ease of doing business has to be enhanced. When the country is talking about initiatives like Make in India, and today with the Chinese products we've seen with disfavor, India is looking at alternatives to manufacturing and stopping imports from China. Therefore, the regulatory framework, the corporate law, which is the framework for corporates to function in our country, has to be more friendly, and there should not be much of a cost of compliance. All these things are being considered. Therefore, changes are happening almost on a daily basis. So to keep track of that, my humble request to your teachers, because what you learn and then you share with, or rather percolate down to the students, very important. It should be most updated, up-to-date information that should pass on. So if you go to the website of, I am sure that most of you who are researchers would be extensively searching on the net for relevant information that you need. So go to the MCA's website, which is www.mca.gov.in, gov for government, gov.in. And then you will get down to this Companies Act 2013, which is the e-book administered by the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. And that is the latest version. And you can see from the top menu, rules are also there. Companies Act should always be read together with the rules because it's a delegated registration. Now, about the legal framework, which is part of your teaching modules, as I could see from that particular university which I referred, chapter 10 is a very important chapter. Sections 139 to 148. I'll just read it out. I think the slide is not fully read, it's small in size. 139 deals with appointment of auditors. It says that every company shall appoint an auditor in an AGM. Also says that the first auditor should be appointed by the board of directors within 30 days of incorporation. First auditor by the board, after that it is by the annual general meeting. It is a shareholder's prerogative to appoint an independent auditor beyond the powers of the board of directors. And under the Companies Act 2013, the term of an auditor is a period of 5 years, as against 1 year in the erstwhile 56 Act. Removal, resignation of auditor, and giving of special notice. Two issues is that an auditor resigns, how to deal with the situation. If you want to remove an auditor, can you do that? Like a curry leaf, can you throw him out because the auditor is very upright, he's not listening to the management? There are restrictions, EGM, special notice, and so on in 140. 141 deals with eligibility. Who are eligible to be appointed as auditors, qualifications and disqualifications. And in the initial chapters of the auditing paper for BCom, also talk about qualities of an auditor. Qualification is being a chartered accountant, doubtlessly under the Chartered Accountants Act. Qualities are slightly different from qualification. Qualified people may not have all the desirable qualities. So that we will discuss a little later when we discuss standards on auditing. Disqualifications. Body corporate, for example, an incorporated entity is disqualified. A person who is indebted to the company for an amount of more than 1 lakh is disqualified. An employee of a company is disqualified. A relative of an employee is disqualified, and so on. An employee or a partner of an employee is all disqualified. So that's 141. 142 talks about remuneration, something which we are all interested in. Me and Jalapati are interested in. 143 is a very important section. We are going to expand that a little bit in 2 minutes from now. Powers and duties of auditors and auditing standards. Auditing standards are what I referred to in one of my earlier slides as SAs. Standards on auditing. Though Companies Act uses the term auditing standards, the new term is standards on auditing. Auditor not to render certain services. 144, there's a prohibition because auditor has to be independent. Therefore, if he is engaging in multidisciplinary services, like what happened in Enron, the old story of Enron collapsing, and Arthur Andersen also collapsed alongside. Arthur Andersen was getting a remuneration of $25 million as audit fees, and $27 million for other services. They say almost everything which the management wanted to do: internal financial controls, internal audit, preparing financial projections, arranging bank finance, tax representation, tax planning, all those things, technology advice, all that the auditors were giving. And with that, the Securities Exchange Commission also came out with a regulation that auditors should not render multidisciplinary services, which is today part of the statute book through Section 144 of the Companies Act. It is literally a 144 curfew on chartered accountants for acting as auditors of the company in rendering service to a particular audit client. I can do any financial control or project report of a Jalapati's client because that is audited by Jalapati. Jalapati can do the same with my client who is an audit client. But then that auditor, not every chartered auditor is prohibited from doing that kind of service to ensure independence. Auditor to sign auditor's report, naturally yes. Auditor to attend annual general meeting. AGM today, the auditor is duty bound to attend annual general meeting or through a qualified representative he should. We make it a point to attend many of our, at least bigger companies, the AGM, because there some of the questions are asked as auditors. We are bound to answer to the shareholders, not directly, but we concede to that. Then 147 is penalty, and 148 is the cost audit records. Certain sectors of certain verticals of manufacturing companies, the central government prescribed that the cost records have to be maintained in addition to the financial records. This is just trying to expand upon Section 143, which is a very important section, powers and duties of auditors. Auditor should have the auditor should be given he has the right of access to books of account and vouchers. Naturally, yes, we have to verify them. And today we are also going to, in one of the slides a little later, discuss about the technology impact. Are books of accounts available as we used to have in the earlier days? Actually, no. Today, many of our clients send the tally data to us. And the digitization has gone to an extent where, source documents have disappeared. Vouchers are not there physically to put a tick. We cannot put a tick on the screen of the computer or the laptop. So those are the changes which, of course, we'll discuss because I'm seeing EDP and all those considerations in the part of your syllabi. Therefore, that is very important. In addition to having access, the auditor asks a lot of questions to the management, various levels, to the accountant, to the finance manager, to the director of finance, sometimes to the board of directors or to the audit committee. So he has the right to ask for or require information from the officers of the company at various levels or from the management. And these rights will apply also to subsidiaries insofar as it relates to consolidation. You are the auditor of a holding company, you can take similar information from the subsidiary so far it is relevant for consolidating the financial side. Moving on, the auditor shall make a report. I have taken only relevant extracts from the section. It's a very lengthy section. Shall make a report on the financial statements laid before the AGM, duly taking into account the following provisions, applicable provisions of the Act and the rules. Accounting standards. Accounting standards, we have accounting standards, and today larger companies are required to comply with what is known as Ind AS. I hope you are familiar. Indian accounting standards, Ind AS, that is an advanced version of accounting standards or a carved out version of international financial reporting standards. Every company with a net worth of not less than 250 crores. Every company with a net worth of not less than 250 crores, all listed companies, all NBFCs, and if you're a small company but a subsidiary of a bigger company with 250 crores or more of net worth, yes, you have to comply with Indian accounting standards, Ind AS. Auditing standards, yes, that is SA is part of it. Today we are going to discuss that in detail as we go by. That is today part of the statute book. And the auditor should also keep in mind matters to be included in the auditor's report under the Act and the rules. In addition to just saying true and fair, the lot of proprietary aspects of management, proprietary aspects of running a business, a corporate, is mentioned to be required to be reported by the auditor. For example, employees' dues collected, whether they have been paid to the appropriate authority on time, whether the undisputed amounts payable as income tax or statutory dues have been paid. If not, quantify and show it in the auditor's report. Whether stock verification procedures are okay, stock records are properly maintained, and so on. Large number of questions. What we call it as the CARO. We're going to discuss that. CARO is Companies Auditors Report Order emanating from the 143 section. It empowers the central government to issue orders on matters to be included in the auditor's report. And in exercise of those powers, the government has issued CARO. And CARO 2020 has been notified, the newest version, which puts a very difficult, onerous responsibilities on the auditing profession, will fall into place from the next financial year 2021. And so far, the auditor need to have an idea of what is happening currently and some insight of what has happened in the past, historical information, historical events. But today in the new report, we are also required to have foresight. We are even required to predict whether, given the present conditions, the company would be able to, ride into the future as a going concern. Going concern is a major concern today. Our institute has come out with 5 different COVID-related pronouncements, where all we're talking about the going concern is maybe difficult. Many of the organizations businesses have come to a grinding halt, and therefore may find it difficult to pull on. So therefore, going concern cannot be an accounting assumption. As academicians would agree with me that a going concern normally is an accounting assumption. Accrual, consistency, going concern are accounting assumptions. Not anymore. Going concern cannot be an assumption. It has to be questioned, threadbare discussed with the management during the course of the audit, and only then come to reliable inferences. Going on with the duties, the auditor shall report whether the financial statements give a true and fair view of the state of affairs, operating results, either a profit or a loss, and cash flow statements. Cash flows are also today part of the definition of GPFS, General Purpose Financial Statements. What constitutes true and fair, or what vitiates true and fair? Material misstatements, frauds, material omissions, undervaluation or overvaluation of assets, not disclosing liabilities like omissions, not making provision for what is actually fallen due. It could be interest, it could be payables, it could be bonus, it could be termination benefits for employees like gratuity, leave encashment, and so on. So true and fair, to ensure true and fair, the auditor has to embark on the whole gamut of audit procedures and techniques as mentioned in here, and therefore that is one of the duties of the auditors. Powers we have seen, rights and duties. This is in brief section 143. So again, going back, chapter 10, section 139 to 148 is the statutory framework under Companies Act 2013 when it comes to audit of corporates in the Indian context. And we have also seen tax audit. In the last part of the presentation, we will touch upon that as well. Is it going okay? Any questions? Is there a chat or something? Any questions, or somebody wants to ask a question? Can someone respond, please? Can some of the participants respond? I'm sitting in front of bright light, but I'm in the dark as far as how the presentation is going on. Tirupati, you are there, no? No,
Yes, sir.
is
Yes,
it
sir.
going okay? I'm not able to see the
Yes, sir.
participants because
Yes. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. We are getting a good feedback, sir. Informative
oh my
session.
God.
Excellent
Okay, very good, very
presentation.
good. Okay. I hope the more participants have joined in. Yeah, I'll proceed with this. So slides are visible, right? Okay. Now
Yes,
let
sir.
me
Yes,
touch
sir.
upon the audit process. Why? Because it is again a part of the teaching modules, as I could see from the syllabus. We start with getting an appointment, and then we start with the particular financial year. Take, for example, 1920. Financial year 2019-20 is what we are auditing now. So the opening balance checking from the previous audited statements, make sure that they have been correctly brought forward. Very important exercise. That's a separate standard, SA 510, on initial engagements and opening balances. Internal control evaluation, IC evaluation and communicating findings to TCWG is a new term. I thought I should use that abbreviation. Instead of management, TCWG stands for those charged with the governance of a company who have directional powers. When we say management, we generally think that it is the board of directors, but here it could be a general manager, it could be a project site manager or project manager, all those things coming under those charged with governance. Internal control evaluation, one of the very important audit exercises. Audit procedures, as you know, are broadly classified into compliance procedures and substantive procedures. Compliance procedures are tests of control. Are the controls okay? How frequent is the trial balance taken? Are bank accounts reconciled periodically? Who is approving vouchers? Are all relevant transactions captured? Is there omissions? Are assets properly secured, insured? Today, talking about information security, do we have access controls? How do we recover data in the event of a disaster? All those things are very important. So, they are tests of control. From an audit perspective also, standpoint also, they're very important. We have a mandatory standard. So, internal control refers to the whole gamut of controls, which is again part of the syllabus. Internal audit, internal check are all subsets, subcomponents of internal control, which has got a larger connotation than both internal check and internal audit. Questions are being asked, explain the difference between internal control, internal check, and internal audit, or differentiate between internal control and internal audit, and so on. And these find their compliance procedures, tests of controls. We do that initially, and then based on that, we decide the extent of substantive procedures. Substantive procedures are checking in detail, tests of detailed transactions analysis. Vouching is a substantive procedure. Vouching is checking the entries in the books of primary entry, a cash book, a bank book, a purchase register, a sales register, and the residuary register called the journal, with reference to the underlying vouchers, and making sure that the transactions are relevant to the organization. Vouching, as we teach, we tell the students that vouching is the essence of auditing. It's factually so in practical medicine. The difference between you and me are that we have learned the same thing and you share it with the younger generation. We are applying that at the work desk. That's only difference. And it's very important that we interact. We interact very frequently. I'm coming to that a little later. You should invite chartered accountants or institutions to deliver lectures. They can that we will discuss a little later. So vouching is very important, and they are correctly entered in the books of primary entry. Then the next step in accounting is the ledger analysis, analyzing each ledger account and making sure that every ledger account looks the way it should look like. Looks the way it should look like. There are no irregularities, no abnormal transactions. Or if there are some transactions, then the explanations are sought and properly explained. Verification of assets and liabilities, inventory verification, stock verification. Recently, our firm has been hired by a firm in Pune, multinational firm, and they are not able to come to Cochin to do a physical verification for a particular client. And my partner and my team went and did the stock verification. The entire thing was video streamed from Cochin to Pune. A person was sitting in front of a computer, making sure that we are doing it. A sample was selected and sent across to us. So a lot of trust has to be there, making sure that the stock which is sitting in the balance sheet do exist in good condition. The evaluation is proper, fair, in accordance with gaps. Accounting standard 2 tells us how to value inventories. Why only inventories? Verification of fixed assets, verification of documents of title. 5 vehicles, Taurus SCVs have been purchased. Commercial vehicles have been purchased, heavy commercial vehicles. What are the RC books? Are they registered in the name of the company? The company has purchased land in Coimbatore to set up a factory. Where is the document? Where is the title deed? In whose name it is registered? Have the mutation been done? Has the tax been paid in the name of the company? So on the story goes. Analytical review, yes, overall test, ratio analysis, trend analysis, and if there are divergent trends, we will investigate into the divergent trends, and we find that either it is that there is a problem, or they are saying that okay, this is because of particular condition. Either we are able to confirm or dispel our doubts. Comparing financial statements with books of accounts. So as auditors, we insist on a signed final trial balance. Trial balance is the conduit or the connecting link between books of accounts and financial statements. Accounting standard compliance. What are accounting standards? Those principles and methods which are made mandatory also, or used for recognizing and recording transactions and doing financial reporting. The mandatory force comes from the ICAI and also the Companies Act. We talked about 143 about auditing standards. 133 empowers the central government to make accounting standards mandatory, and it has actually been done. Then Schedule 3 compliance. Schedule 3, some of you are in the 1956, maybe senior faculty members were used to Schedule 6 of the Companies Act 1956. Companies Act 2013, it is Schedule 3. The format is very important. In auditing, there is something called substance over form. More of thrust and focus has to be on the content of financial statements than the mere legal form. But when it comes to company audit, the legal form is also very important. The auditor has to specifically report in the main body of the report whether the financial statements give the required information in the manner so required by the Act. Schedule 3 formats are today completely different from what we are used to. And there's a separate format for Ind AS format. In the accounting standard format, we have sources of funds and applications of funds. In the Ind AS format, we start with assets and then say that equity and liabilities come later. In IFRS, it's even different. Assets, liabilities, and equity. Equity is shown as a residue. Assets minus liabilities. So Schedule 3 compliance is information for notes and all that we take. CARO is Companies Auditors Report Order. I did make a reference to that. We'll see a little later. Informed reporting the auditor has to do. So the auditing standards, now that was the part mostly about the Companies Act and the audit process. Now the second part, which is study material, says that the professional standards, and this particular reference books, the particular university says that the Institute of Chartered Accountants India, Auditing and Assurance Standards, ICAI, New Delhi. That term itself is slightly old. We will see why. So auditing standards are the mandatory pronouncements issued by the Auditing and Assurance Standards Board of ICAI to be followed by auditors while discharging the attestation function. Attestation is not a copy attestation. We call the audit function technically as an attestation function. Okay, so AISB is the Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. It is a policy making arm of the institute. And I was fortunate, I think Jalapati did not mention that in my introduction. Two things were relevant, I think, when I'm sitting in front of you, though virtually we are together. Two things were relevant. One is that I've served as a member of the Auditing and Assurance Standards Board 15 years back. I was much younger as a member of the Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. Some of you may know C.A.T.N. Manoharan, a Padma Shri awardee. When he became vice president of the institute, he co-opted me to the Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. I was the youngest member of the board at that point of time. And the policy making, we meet very free. Every month we used to meet 2-3 days of deliberation in Delhi, and last was in Mumbai. To all the 12 meetings I attended. So a lot of work goes into formulation of the standards, a lot of thinking, a lot of pooling of resources and faculties come together, and then we do this. And the second thing which the Jalapati probably did make the introduction short was I'm also on the advisory board of St. Teresa's College, a 90-year college in Cochin. I'm serving there as an advisory board member for the last 2 years. So my connect to academia, as I mentioned, time permits, I would still like to get back and spend more time in teaching. CA by profession, teacher by passion. And non-compliance with auditing standards can result in action by ICAI, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, as a disciplinary mechanism, and NFRA. NFRA is a new thing, a new authority, National Financial Reporting Authority, set up under 132 of the Companies Act. This section 132 was not notified initially, it was deferred. Finally, NFRA has come into existence, it has started taking action. Though it is not fair for me to share this with academicians, all of you are connected with the current affairs, and therefore you would have known that the NFRA has recently slashed huge penalties and imposed a 7-year ban on two partners and one ex-partner of a multinational firm for audit failures in the IL and FS debacle, where 92,000 crores of irregularities were found, and NFRA said auditors failed to exercise due care. They did not ask relevant questions. They took management explanations for granted. And academicians surely would know. We still start by quoting the Kingston Cotton Mills case, delivered in the judgment delivered in 1896 by as they used to say, the learned Judge Lopez, where he said that the auditor is only a watchdog, not a bloodhound. But today things are changing. The auditors are given a whistle. They have to blow the whistle. The auditor cannot be just a watchdog. He has to be a barking dog, alerting the regulators, alerting the shareholders that something is stinking in Denmark. This is the history and evolution of auditing standards. It was originally known as Auditing Practices Committee, set up in 1982. It was issuing standard auditing practices. Renamed as AASB in 2002. Then it was called Auditing and Assurance Standards. That is a term which I am seeing in the 2019 version of the syllabus of a university. So I think OAS is not there anymore. I'm coming to that a little later. And a new preface was issued in 2008, taking into account the global developments and what's happening across the globe. And then a new preface was issued in 2008. We will see the outcome of that, how that has changed the whole sphere of understanding auditing standards, standards on auditing, etc. And now they have been made mandatory under the Companies Act 2013. This is a chronology of how auditing standards or standards on auditing have evolved and what we are discussing today. Now, with that new preface in place, there's a new classification. They are broadly classified into SQCs, Standard and Quality Control. Let me take 2 minutes to explain Standard and Quality Control. The key question is, as academicians and practicing accountants or public accountants, as they're called in the US, certified public accountants in the US, CPAs. Australia also have CPAs. Standard and Quality Control gives directions on how to ensure quality in an audit. 3 aspects of the crux of the standard can be explained in just 1 minute. One is a mindset. A firm resolve that me and Jalapati would make, every practicing chartered accountant would make, to say that the financial statements that are going out of our office, stamped by or assigned auditors opined by us, along with our report, should have the best quality, and we should do all that is possible to ensure what we are certifying is based on the information available. Deep dives we have done are all true and fair and factual. Some of our friends are a little passive about this. That is resulting in audit quality taking a backseat, resulting in corporate failures, bad loans in the banking system, and so on. The second thing about quality is having good processes. Planning an audit, documenting it properly, collecting sufficient appropriate evidence. All those things, very important. Internal control evaluations or compliance with standards in auditing. The third important factor is what you are working on. The third factor is your output and mostly our raw material. The audit team to have a good HR factor, people factor. Well instructed, charged up, supervised, reviewed set of assistants. So a quality mission, processes, people are the three components of having good quality control and audit. Others are broadly called engagement standards, further classified into standards on auditing, standards on review engagement. We have limited review. In listed companies, we do a limited review, which is slightly lesser version. The level of assurance given is slightly lesser than that in an audit. Audit itself is not absolute assurance. Audit gives only reasonable assurance. Limited review, slightly lesser level of assurance. Assurance engagement, standards on assurance engagements. Now, my topic is audit and assurance engagement. What is this assurance? Audit we have defined. Assurance refers to the other assurances which are given by chartered accountants. We are asked to give certificates. For example, some of your children would have gone abroad for their studies. So the university would ask for a certificate of income as well as assets. Whether the student, if he's not having a scholarship from abroad, the student will have the resources, wherewithal to pursue this course and discharge his financial commitments there, the tuition fees, the living expenses, and so on. So you approach a chartered accountant. We verify that information. Sometimes you being a senior professor, we would also sometimes rely on certain oral explanations which you give. And with all that, we give a certificate saying that so and so is resourceful enough. And this is his income or his parents' income. These are the assets which the family has and so on. And also say that we are shown a fixed deposit of 20 lakhs, which the university requires, we give it. Organized companies come to us to do a net worth certification. Net worth, how much is your net worth? Turnover certification. So many things which we certify. Funds utilized. The government or a financial institution like SIPCOT would sanction a term loan and say that first installment of 1 crore is given. Second installment we will give if you provide a utilization certificate and also say that your contribution of equity, debt equity in the component of debt and equity has come through, and based on that we'll. So all these are assurance services. So that is the relevance of assurance. So we have assurance engagement standards. Related services. We help the clients, some of the clients in other than audit services, related services, compiling financial information, preparing sensible financial statements for them. All that is part of that. So this is a broad classification. And why comply with standards? I think we need to go faster. How much more time do I have, Jalapati? We started late. So how much more time do I have?
Another 15-20 minutes, sir. 15 minutes is okay.
Only you are saying the participants should also be okay. Okay, I trust you so much, and I know that your voice represents the voice of all the. Thank you so much. Okay, yeah, another 15 minutes. I think we'll be able to round up, and probably, if time permits, we can take a few questions also. We'll be happy to interact with the academy. Okay. To expedite audits effectively in accordance with accepted practices is very important. To expedite, that's a time factor. There is a economic factor, so that's very important. Utilize the resources effectively. What are the resources we bring into an audit? The faculties that I have, domain knowledge me and my team has, then my team is a resource. The entire students and my younger partners or audit manager who comes to do the audit. Time is an important resource. All that has to be effectively utilized. Therefore, you need to comply with standards. To guide, direct, and supervise assistants properly. I have 53 article students in my Ernakulam office and about 18 in Trivandrum. To coordinate the work of these 53 assistants, every time you can call, I have a one-to-one meeting. So we have instruction manuals, audit programs, and so on. So that is emanating out of mandatory standards. To ensure quality control in an audit, I did mention ensuring that processes are proper, the students are properly instructed, the human factor, HR factor is very well taken care of. They are inspired and motivated. Incidentally, yesterday morning, we had a training session where I spoke to the students who are in office. We have a meeting room here. Others were on Zoom platform. We had a meeting attended by 38 of the students. Those who have gone on leave, we have not attended. So complete whole gamut of instructions, revised instructions for 1920 audit season. That was a thrust. To face and pass peer review, that is slightly quite related to the profession. All of us are subjected to something called the peer review. Review of systems and processes of audit offices by another chartered accountant of standing 10 to 15 years standing. He will come and review the systems and finally give a peer review certificate, which is a hallmark of professional excellence, the institute says. Our firm has got peer reviewed and we have been okayed. We got the peer review certificate, which is displayed right here. So saying that your processes are kind of mature enough, you have good people, you are complying with the institute's kind of all pronouncements which are mandatory and so on. Some of the practice-based standards we'll quickly look at, because again, why I'm discussing this in structure, I have structured my presentation, put this in the perspective of with reference to what has been said in accordance with the current legal requirements which we have seen and professional standards. SA 200 is a very basic standard which talks about objectives of an independent auditor and the conduct of an audit in accordance with standards on auditing. This is where, as I mentioned earlier, in 141 we had qualifications of an auditor. Qualities of an auditor is mentioned in SA 200. The auditor should have integrity. He should be independent. He should respect confidentiality, upright. Indira Gandhi was once asked by media when she went abroad. In some of the European countries, they interviewed her and asked, "We have heard that there are leftists and rightists in India. Which side do you belong to?" She said, "I'm neither a leftist nor a rightist. I'm always upright." That should be the case with auditors. And a retired judge was once interviewed, of the Supreme Court was once interviewed, and he was asked this question: what do you think are the most important, 3 important attributes a judge should possess? He said a judge should be independent in the first place, and a judge should be independent in the second place, and a judge should be independent in the third place. Same is the case with the auditor, because auditor is acting in a fiduciary capacity between the management and the whole lot of stakeholders, as we mentioned earlier. Therefore, he has to be independent, person, man of integrity, and not swaying and swinging and dancing to the whims and fancies of the management. Management is the board of directors. We too, all of us, me, Jalapati, would have experienced, all of us have experienced some kind of management pressures. Sometimes to window dress and show profit which is not actual. Sometimes to pull down the profit because, oh my God, I have to pay 30% taxes in our country. But 30% has now come down. We are 22%. And for newly established manufacturing companies, the rate is as low as 15%. One of the lowest rates in the whole world. So tax reform is happening, and the Prime Minister is now, honoring the honest program now he is launching. And a lot of transparency is coming in tax assessments, impersonal assessments, faceless assessments are happening. Your income tax assessments of businesses in Coimbatore, or even your personal income tax assessment Coimbatore may be happening in Jaipur or in Gujarat or even J&K now. So SA 210 deals with agreeing and this standard SA 200 also talks about the basics. The auditor should plan his audit properly, which is expounded in another standard. The auditor should document his work properly. SA 230, you can see the third bullet point. The auditor should collect a sufficient appropriate evidence. Why evidence? Because the end product of an audit, what is the end product of an audit? Is an opinion conveyed through the auditor's report in very clear terms. And an opinion is always saying that it is true and fair. It's always not always a clean chit. It could be qualified opinion, except for certain things, it's okay. It can be adverse opinion. The financial statements does not give a true and fair view. It could be a disclaimer also. Sometimes the auditor washes his hands. So 4 different types of auditor's opinions. So he has to collect evidence. Then he should evaluate internal control systems. All this expounded further. But in 2008, what's very important now, 2008, they started using this term. The auditor should exercise professional skepticism. Being a little skeptical, being a little doubting, not taking things, people, explanations for granted. Also saying that, sir, finance manager, the audit assistant would say, sir, we trust you. Still, we would like to verify. Double check. There's a biblical term called doubting Thomas. One of the disciples of Jesus would believe only after touch feeling that he has actually resurrected. I'm not talking religion here. So in every context, when I address chartered accounts across the country, I can say Jalapati has brought me in interaction with many of the branches, Pondicherry, Vellore, Kumbakonam, Tirupur, Erode, Salem, Coimbatore, and many more to come. Yesterday, day before yesterday, I addressed the members in Andhra Pradesh, Anantapur, Kurnool, and Kadapa, and all that. So where we say this is be a doubting Thomas, because these are times when fraudsters would surface. Management would like to paint a rosy picture, though the business have gone down so badly in the wake of this unprecedented pandemic COVID situation. All those things one has to be careful. So professional skepticism is a new thing, it's a very relevant thing in the context of the COVID in this situation. And all the ICAI pronouncements on COVID, the spirit of that is to tell us, practicing chartered accountants, that, hey, look here, your concept of professional skepticism should stand amplified in the given context of complexities. Debtors would have disappeared. Your inventory would have deteriorated in quality and may not have any value. Date-sensitive inventories would have expired, pharma items or medical items or health products and all that. You'll have to throw it out. You may have to spend money on disposing them because of the environmental issues one may have. So this is how SA 200 is. That's a takeoff standard. SA 210 says that before getting into an audit, get the engagement terms agreed upon. Most of the terms, the scope is defined in the statute, but further underlying that, this is your responsibility, this is my responsibility, this is what the statute wants, and so on. SA 230 talks about audit documentation. Very important, the auditor should document his work. And the earlier standard, before this was revised a few years back, used to talk about a permanent file and a current file. That is done away with, because internationally today, if you see, even in my office, why internationally? Even in my office, documentation does not mean a thick box file. So is the case with academicians. Where is your research material? Where is your research? Where is your reference? Reference is not like in shelves now. It is on in your laptop, or maybe it's in the cloud, which can be retrieved from anywhere. New technologies are evolving. We're going to discuss that. Our profession also, we have to be much more tech savvy. We have much more leverage on technology to have access to data in situations like this. Lockdown, we are not able to go to office. A physical server is not enough. We may need to have cloud space. We may need to have a VPN to access real-time data and so on. So 230 is about documentation. So other day I asked one of our lady assistants articles to get me ledger scrutiny notes of a particular client. She said, sir, that is in the client folder. Client folder, you can check that, or I'll bring my laptop and show it to you. It's networked and via Wi-Fi. So she said, I can show it to you. So documentation has different methodologies now. Moving on with these responsible joint auditors, more than one firm doing audit sometimes. Larger companies engage auditors, somebody with tax expertise, to make sure that that expertise shared, pooling of resources. There the understanding has to be proper and all that. That's what the standard. Planning, SA 300, it says that there should be an audit program, written audit program to do the audit properly. 315 is a technical standard, because the audit is concerned about checking whether there are material misstatements. To understand that, the auditor should have a proper understanding of the entity and its environment. Entity-specific understanding, industry to which it belongs. Coimbatore, for example, Coimbatore will be a lot of manufacturing units or foundries or whatever. So what is the entity-specific issues? How is that industry faring? What is the gross profit ratio? What are the positions generally about? What are the gross margins, etc. So many things which are there. What are the trade practices and so on? Then today it's environment. It also, the auditor has to look into the macroeconomic environment, which is quite disrupted now than ever before. Mobility is restricted. Travel is not there. Tourism industry is dead. All related industries to that are kind of grounded, to use a term from aviation. So all those things are very, very important. These are all evidence-based standards. The auditor should collect sufficient appropriate evidence. External evidence is more reliable than internal evidence. Written evidence is more reliable than oral evidence. The auditor should corroborate evidence received from various sources and make sure that they converge, they agree. There are special constraints for specific items like inventory verification. I did mention earlier about another firm using our services because they are not able to physically come down to Cochin from Pune. So they asked us to do it. And their thing is videographed and live streamed to them. SA 505 is about external confirmations, that is, debtors confirmation, bank balance confirmation, creditors confirmation, loan confirmations, confirmation of documents, original documents held by bankers and financial institutions, confirmation of materials held by consignment agents, sale or return agents, subcontractors, all that is external confirmations. Opening balances we have already discussed, analytical procedures, yes. Audit sampling. The auditor may have, when I'm doing the audit of a large company, like LMW there or wherever, or MRF in Chennai or all those things, or wherever we have do the audit, large organizations, then you're not going for 100% verification. Things might change today because AI is taking over. Artificial intelligence is going to hugely impact the accounting and auditing profession, about which we'll just before we conclude. So audit sampling, gone, related party transactions, subsequent events, getting written representation from the management and so on. And SA 700 is a very important standard. It is from out 700 that the auditor decides on forming an opinion on the financial information and finally issuing his auditor's report. Yes, technology impact is huge. Accounting is digitized. Financial accounting softwares. Tally, we have a very friendly Indian software. QuickBooks is very popular in India, Peachtree. Some of our clients who have US connected are under QuickBooks. The auditor has to familiarize with all this. Peachtree, all those things online, and we may not have books of accounts as we used to have, thick books of accounts and voucher files we used to have. So that the EDP, why I've used technology impacting EDP. EDP term is all very outdated, I would say archaic, but 2019 syllabus still talks about the terms like EDP. I think that should be revised. And ERPs have come, enterprise resource thing, and therefore the whole government of ERP is SAP, where they are, one limb of a transaction is here, another limb is elsewhere. So it is not like debit, credit is equal to. So even inventories are directly taken into stock. SAP is a completely different platform. Audit methodologies have to change. And there has to be new focus on IS controls. How do you restrict access controls? Who's taking backups? What about my data security? If data is shared just like that. Data security and business continuity planning. If something like 9/11 or something, a building collapses, a flood or a landslide or a fire happens, whether I'll be able to retrieve data, that's called business continuity planning in IS audit and so on. And with all that, audit objective remains the same, expression of opinion, but methodologies change. I cannot put a tick, I cannot do this thing and all that. So therefore, computer assisted audit techniques, abbreviated as CATs, have emerged. Many of the techniques have emerged. And the early days, what we used to do was test data was one thing. We would probably give a mock entry or mock sales, mock invoices entered, and see whether that is captured properly by the system. The sales account is credited, the ABC account which we created is debited, and then it is posted. The tax part of it or GST part of it is properly posted and so on. It is shifted to the ledger and it is reflected in the final trial balance and so on. All those things are there. So I'm not a very technology person, but technology and the latest, though I did not mention, I did a passing reference on AI, artificial intelligence. We have distributed ledgers. We have all these, what is that called? The distributed ledgers called the blockchain. You had a session yesterday, I think so. So these are all new technologies which are making revolutionary changes. The profession need to catch up. And I think with these two slides, quickly, certain things which are not very new, recent is, I did mention cash flow is included in the financial statements. Schedule 3, there's a new format. Depreciation is now based on useful lives given in Schedule 2 of the Companies Act. Companies Accounting Standard Amendment rules have come in 2016. One example here is depreciation. Accounting Standard 6 depreciation has been fully deleted and planted into paragraph 40 to 60 of Accounting Standard 10, which has been renamed as property, plant and equipment. As again is the old name, accounting for fixed assets. I'm moving faster now. Ind AS we did discuss, that made applicable to certain companies. Auditing standards have been made mandatory under the Companies Act 143(9). Income computation and disclosure standards have been made mandatory. New format of the auditor's report in SA 700. CARO 2016 and moving on to CARO 2020. New reporting requirements like SS 701, key audit matters, the newest thing. Now, as of now, applicable only for listed companies. So the matters which are of great significance, which discussed by the auditor with the management and resolved, should be listed in the auditor's report. A few suggestions as we conclude is from a public accountant's point of view, who has a great connect or relationship with the academia and also with the student community, is that I think there is every university, every institution should increase the academia profession industry connect. We always say that there's a disconnect between industry and academia. So the first step towards that is to invite many of us. I'm sure you would have listened to G. Ramaswamy sir yesterday. He's the past president of our institute, a patron for all of us, Jalapati, for me, all that. So people like that, when they interact with students, a larger, even in classroom sessions, you can have younger chartered accountants. So many of them have got that academic flair. Some technical sessions, periodical meetings for them. Classroom itself, we allowed some sessions. And don't think that they're very expensive. We are not selling cheap, but then we would really like to associate with the academia and then make sure that the next generation and what you are teaching from the books needs to be essentially supplemented with some practical flair, which we bring it from our work desk. Organize periodical training programs for faculty as frequent as possible, and updation and references are a must. Referring to books today may not really help, so we have to really move on the net, Google up and see what are the latest developments. Only then that, see, if you find that this presentation is kind of okay with you, I have referred to develop a focus on this presentation. I have referred certain areas, and that's how this has been structured. And leverage on technology and techies. Quite like ask chartered accountants to be invited as a lecturer for giving lectures to the students. Also invite techies. EDP, why should me and you teach EDP if we are not tech experts? So what is happening in the real world? The basics as required in the syllabus, and syllabus also may have to be very, very periodically changed. On technology side, EDP and all that has to go out and say that what are the new CADs, all those things. Our institute has substantially revised all the study material. So, and the Board of Studies everywhere has to be really on their toes to make sure that catch up with the latest. Smart classrooms, all of them should, I hope, have, maybe I'm talking about very elementary things, but use visual aids while you're teaching. I think it's very important. And today, the best teacher is said to be the one who teaches maximum from outside the syllabus, not out of syllabus, out of the syllabus, which is meaning that do not confine to the books, bring your extra knowledge, whether it's economics or management or accountancy or audit, whatever. Those insights have to be brought into to play when you are in the classroom, because that 1 hour is where you are there with a purpose. And sessions like this or training programs, empowerment programs, faculty development programs of this sort would add flair to this kind of a thinking, and we will move forward in the right direction, grooming the next generation. With that, I may conclude with a big thank you. The kids are giving a thank you. They have formed into a thank you. If you cannot see a thank you, half close your eyes and see. I'm signing off with that. Once again, thanking Jalapati, the Coimbatore branch, for inviting me to this session. It has been great interacting with academicians. So it is back to the organizers. Thank you so very much. God bless every one of you. So stay healthy, stay safe. In the difficult times, there are 2-3 R's. One is restraint. Avoid unnecessary travel and social interaction, crowding and all that. The second is the resilience. The resilience to stay through, and then, until we see a bright light at the end of the tunnel. Yesterday, the vaccine was tested in Russia. So hopefully things will brighten and be better. The third one is a firm resolve that this is not the end of the world. We have weathered more difficult conditions. This is a spirit you should share. Inspire the students, youngsters who may be a little down, saying that my future is all dumped and I'm not going to be able to attend classes. That kind of a fresh resolve, optimism we should all share. May God bless every one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for our excellent presentation. Once again, I have enjoyed our session. I hope our faculty members also would have enjoyed the session. since we have received a lot of excellent feedback from the participants. Thank you so much. So very positive time. Other speakers also waiting outside. So we can take 2 questions and we will answer and we will wind up this session. I think first question is displaying. Can you suggest any risk calculation?
Yeah, risk calculation, audit risk quickly. Audit risk is expressing the risk of expressing an inappropriate opinion, a wrong opinion rather. If Jalapati says that Jovan is a good boy, and if I do not happen to be a good boy, that is a risk is making of a wrong opinion, because that opinion is being relied upon by many people. It is different from business risk. So audit risk calculation, what we will do is that we will mitigate risk by going in depth, doing a evaluation of internal controls, as I mentioned earlier. There is no ready-made formula for that. Various procedures. Then doing a sensible sampling of the data if you are not able to do 100% verification. Statistical sampling methods, those are more rational and more defensible. And with that, we would mitigate the audit risk. And if the controls are weak, we may have to go for extensive substantive procedures. Only with that, we'll be able to reduce the audit risk. And with all that, if you still do not have the comfort of saying that fair opinion, then you still have one more, the last arrow in your armor is to qualify the report or to give a adverse opinion, saying that does not give a 20. Last year, we have issued 3 adverse reports, 2 in Kerala government companies, 1 in private sector, and 4 qualified reports. So that is how I would look at that question. Question from Praveen Nayak: can bank customers make auditor party to case for improved audit? Housing loan was charged 18% interest for over 14 months. What auditor's role when bank manager? Not for that. See, what is happening in the Western world, India has not become litigative. In the Western world, there are multi-billion-dollar cases being fought against auditors, where they say that the auditor has not exercised, they have misrepresented, and based on their this thing, I invested in this particular company, I lost money. I invested in this particular scheme and lost money. Here in the bank audit, the bank customers make audit party to improper audit, in the sense that bank customers, not for this housing loan charging 18%. That is before signing the loan agreement. It is strictly between you and the banker. You should have checked that. But if there is a misrepresentation by a bank which has resulted in a loss, which has not been in spite of having an audit, yes, it can be charged. Can you brief for forensic audit and opportunities in this area? I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on forensic audit. That's a completely different domain. My specialization area is different. So forensic audit is quite related. We have a separate course on that, forensic audit and fraud detection and all that. I have not really embarked on that. So I'm handicapped to answer that question.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir,
Yes.
Sir, you have explained much on recent advancement in the area of auditing assurance. So many
Yes, sir.
recent cases were elaborated and highlighted very innovative practices in our area. And thank you very much on behalf of participants and Karpagam Academy of Higher Education and on behalf of ICAI Coimbatore.
Yeah.
It was a most insightful session, sir.
Thank you very much.
Your words will enrich the knowledge and your sharings will improve our teaching learning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks. Honored. And when I come to Coimbatore next, I'll interact with Jalapati. It would be my pleasure to visit Karpagam Academy.
Sure.
And then
You are most welcome, sir. We are waiting.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sir, maybe we can take one more question, sir.
Yeah.
Some technical other speakers about to join.
Okay,
Yeah,
sir.
okay.
Maybe we can take one more question.
Yeah, if there are questions, let me try.
Yeah. He's about to join. Once he joined, we will. Yeah.
Difficult questions, Jalapati will answer. Simple questions, may answer. Please throw light on analytical procedure audit sampling applicable to degree classes. Sir, degree classes, what you have to essentially structure your lessons or lectures based on what is given in the syllabus. So here, analytical procedures and audit sampling. And I wonder what we have to do is what is given in the textbook plus the extra reading. There are books like Kamal Gupta, which is mentioned in there. Katalia, S.V. Katalia is a very brilliant book. S.V. Katalia. All those books you'll have to refer, and that will throw more light. From my side, I've already explained, but briefly I'll once again do that. First, about analytical procedures. Analytical procedures fall in the category of overall tests. After doing an audit or during the course of an audit, we will test also the comparison which we do. Test ratio analysis, gross profit ratio, current ratio, liquidity ratio, net profit ratio, stock turnover ratio, debtors turnover ratio, so many of them. And also the trends in the industry. So, for example, in one case where we did in Kerala, was that there's a company, manufacturing company, 60% of their raw material cost was out of natural rubber. So during that particular financial year, the prices of natural rubber was lying low as compared to the previous year. So naturally, 60% of the raw material cost was lying low. So we expected the GP to be more, other conditions remaining more or less the same. But then the GP was less. GP was less, then we found that there is a major mistake in the stock inventory valuation total, and therefore the GP got reduced. So these are things which would surface when you do analytical review like this. I was just giving one example. The student perspective, you may not be able to give such practical examples because we are not doing audits. So more are references, and the standard analytical review standard I did mention. I'll share the presentation with you. That standard will also tell us how to do analytical procedures. Similarly, the trends in the industry, I just explained. And if there are divergent trends, it is not just making a note of the ratio. Gain ratio kammi approach, GP ratio, or why is that the NP ratio is completely different from what the industry standard is? Today, reference is so easy because you just Google up and you will get it. And the second question was on audit sampling. Audit sampling is necessitated because in a given audit situation, like for example, Jalapati has a large corporate audit in Coimbatore, or somebody in Chennai may be there. Chennai is second home for me, I always say, because I did my articles there, 88 to 91, as a CA student. So Chennai, they're doing a big audit there, 100% vouching, 100% ledger analysis may not be possible. So which means that anything less than 100% involves a sampling. Forget audit sampling, audit is sample selection. So if you're buying 10 coconuts from a shop, for example, you will take and check whether it is ripe or things like that you do. So 100% may not be possible. So reduce to the extent results in sampling. And the sampling has to be sensibly done. Their data may be heterogeneous. In Kerala, when we go for resort audit in Munnar, Munnar Wayanad, on season, off season பண்ணுவாங்க. Off season season 2 months we'll pick because that is where transactions are more. Off season some regularity irukkalam. So off season we will take 1 month. எந்த month எடுக்கணும்ன்றது it cannot be by judgment. So we draw a lot. 12 months ஒரு sample போட்டுட்டு அதுல we'll draw a lot and they say that okay, season November and February will take. Off season, rainy season, the hill station. Now we have monsoon tourism also. But when it's off season, we'll say that okay, now landslides are there. July, Munnar Povamata. So July also we'll see what are the accounts being done, any malpractices. So heterogeneous data is stratified into, and then from that we draw sampling. And the also talks about extent of audit sampling talks about statistical methods. Random number, use of random number tables and all that. The whole point is to say that the auditor should select a sample properly to make sure that they are as representative as possible, and randomness is ensured in the selection of the sample process. This is the base of that. So read that particular standard and read from Katalia and also Kamal Gupta. Kamal Gupta is former technical director of our institute. Both are, one is Tata McGraw-Hill publication, as I can see here. Katalia is a book we all of us have referred for our CA final exams. And institute's website you go, instead of referring to like the auditing and assurance standard not there, go to the institute's website, ICAI.org. You have a lot of pull downs from resources, and anything missing you can ask Jalapati because he is gearing up for chairmanship of southern region, 6 states. அவங்க நல்லா எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணிட்டாரு. கேரளா, தமிழ்நாடு, பாண்டிச்சேரி அதுக்கெல்லாம் தலைவராக போறாரு. வருங்கால முதலமைச்சர் சொல்லுவாங்க நம்ம ப்ரொஃபஷன்ல. அப்போ அவர் பண்ண போறாரு.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Such an elaborate explanation. Thank you very much.
Right.
And we have most respected.
பொன்ராஜ் சார் தமிழ்ல போட்டிருக்கு, நான் பார்க்கல சார், மன்னிச்சிடுங்க. Okay.
Welcome,
Right.
sir. Most respected scientist. We have most respected scientist V. Pundraj sir with us. I really proud to welcome him and introduce him among you, dear participants. He was a junior scientist uh, at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and Bioinformatics Center, School of Biotechnology, Madurai Kamaraj University, yeah, at Aeronautical Development Agency at Ministry of Defense. He was worked as a scientist in design and development of fighter aircraft and LCA Tejas as a scientist. C, D, E, F, and G for 17 years. He was deputed to President Secretariat as a Director, Technology Interface. For more than 8 years, he was with past President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam sir, as his advisor on science and technology and public policy. He was also worked as a scientist at ADA with Dr. Kalam sir. Having worked for 20 years with Honorable President Dr. Kalam sir on various capabilities, he resigned from ADA in 2016 and now mentoring social movement called Abdul Kalam Vision India Movement and a political movement called Abdul Kalam Vision India Party. He meets around 20,000 people, youth, students on every month and seeding them the vision and mission of our former President APJ sir. With 25 years of professional, scientific and technical experience, he is now an advisor to various educational institutions, professional bodies and public and private organizations and many more. Sir, your words will enrich our faculty members' knowledge and motivate us towards contributing to the teaching learning process. Sir, welcome, sir. I hand over the session to sir. We are eagerly waiting to your motivational words. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, 1 minute, sir.
Yes,
Pankaj,
sir.
sir. And
Yes, sir.
I have another meeting to attend. I would really love to listen to you. I will see it on YouTube. So,
Yeah, yeah.
organizers, please allow me to leave. I will surely catch up with your session on the YouTube.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Welcome,
Nice
sir.
to be with you. Thank you.
Nice to see you. Nice to listen to you for a few minutes. Your valuable address, and really, I'm thanking. Thank you for the wonderful address, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Rombrand, sir. Rombrand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So let me start. Dear friends, dear friends, good evening to all of you. You want me to talk in English or Tamil? Both? Or it's a southern region, right? Southern region. Better to be in English. Thank you. The Coimbatore branch of SIRC of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and the Karpagam Academy of Higher Education jointly launched the online faculty development program on recent advances in business studies. Really is a wonderful program, and so far from August 7th to 13th, you are having continuously 2-hour session for the benefit of the professors as well as the students in the business studies. Really, I am very delighted to know that the artificial intelligence and in business and business analytics, blockchain business models, and an audit and assurance engagements, then about chartered accountant carry a course as well as the recent developments in accounting profession. Really, I am very happy, and it is a wonderful evening to interact with the participants of this program, faculty development program, and the majority of the student faculty. You are. It is very. I hope you would have enjoyed the sessions which are carried out so far, and certainly I love to share the experiences, because I have worked as a scientist as well as the bureaucrat for 5 years with Dr. Kalam when Dr. Kalam was the president, 11th president, and during that time I was working as a director technology interface at Rashtrapati Bhavan. and also had a chance to interact with many of the chartered accountants in the country in many occasions, along with Dr. Kalam, and had an opportunity to prepare the speeches for Dr. Kalam with reference to your auditing and accounting procedures and the processes. So I had a little bit knowledge on the on your subject, but but you are the masters. But whatever I feel during this session, I thought I will share some of the when Dr. Kalam was there. How do we see? Normally, Dr. Kalam used to say, when we launch a missile, or a rocket, we will build a system which will do the mid-course correction till it reaches the target. So, if you launch the missile, it should reach the target. Whatever the path it takes, it doesn't matter, but ultimately it should hit the target. That is the purpose of the mission of a rocket or a satellite launch vehicle. So, for that, a technology-based system, a technology-based rocket, a technology-based mission need mid-course correction while going through the path, challenging the atmospheric pressure, the atmospheric temperature, facing the opposite vehicles, opposite missiles, and then achieve the target without any disturbance. That is the purpose of the mission. So I feel evolution of a non-intrusive audit, e-audit, is essential at all stages of any project for that matter, or any company for that matter, which will do the mid-course correction and finally achieve the mission of the project. That is the purpose of the business activity and the audit activity and then accounting activity. So, if we are able to achieve that target, then certainly that is going to make a great change in the life, in the not only the situation, but that is going to create a kind of a steady as well as a robust, a reliable system of auditing and accounting, which will ensure the development of the nation without any deviation. So this is very, very essential. The chartered accountants, the role of chartered accountants in the national development is very, very essential, and it is vital for the national development. That's what I feel. So the audit, the perspective of the audit, which I feel, the audit function is closely linked to the actions of the government to meet the needs of the citizens. Hence, the judgment of the performance cannot be just in finance, but the composite factor of performance, cost, schedule, and the code of conduct. The nation has a clear strategic vision to become a developed country by 2020, but we lost 20 years during the time. Now, today we are in the stage where the country is facing many challenges in all fronts. We are seeing the GDP downline. The GDP is going downward. The growth is reduced to less than 3%, and it is expected to go in the negative path, and our dwindling foreign exchange reserves, and then the value of the rupee against the dollar is reducing, it is going down. In such a scenario, complete MSME sector has seen around, as per the survey of the All India Industrial Manufacturer Association organization, as well as CAI has predicted around 35% of the MSME sector is going to be closed down, and around 37% of the self-employed people are going to lose their self-employment. And the challenge is huge, even though government has given the 20 lakh crore incentives and 3 lakh crore credit guarantee schemes. There are many challenges which are seen. After the implementation of the GST, even my friends, a number of auditors have told me, I don't know, you have to verify, told me the job of the auditor has become a risky one. Is it so? Maybe my friend Mr. Chartered Accountant Jalabadi has to, the Vice Chairman who initiated this wonderful program, have to say on that. I hope you might have discussed. I would have loved to attend all your program, but I missed it. Anyway, I will watch it during my leisure time. My greetings to the Mr. K. Jalabadi, Vice Chairman, for initiating this wonderful program. So certainly I feel it's a challenging time. We are facing a very challenging task, and particularly auditors have a very risky proposition. You have to face numerous kind of activity in managing the accounts, in satisfying, evolving the accounting standard when the country is adopting the international standard, the transition. There are many challenges which are ahead of you. So, but as far my view is concerned, when I look at the development of India, the Developed India Vision 2020, now we are in the 2020, the Kalam year 2020, the Corona year 2020. Now the Corona, the SARS-CoV-2, where it is going to stop us and where it is going to allow us to continue our progress in all front of the economy, whether it is agriculture, whether it is a service sector, whether it is an industrial sector or a manufacturing sector. It is a huge challenge which are ahead of us. And the responsibility, the success of the industry, the success of the government projects are in the hands of the auditors, are in the hands of the accountants. So it is you who are going to make this nation great. So my point, to meet the vision, the Developed India Vision 2020, even though we have not achieved the Vision 2020, maybe in the future, another 20 years down the line, we really feel this Corona has made us to understand the vision is really important. The vision of development is really important. Sustainable development and inclusive growth is the hallmark of any development of any nation. So we have to launch a mega infrastructure missions in the evergreen revolution, in interconnecting our rivers, in creating the smart waterways, in bringing a self-reliant villages by implementing Pura vision, and also evolving a policy of ecosystem, a innovation ecosystem, which will help our MSME sector and industrial sector to focus on manufacturing sector, to focus on concentrating on the import substitution. So our concentration on import substitution, our concentration on opening up our economy for bringing the world industries, which is diverting towards ASEAN. Today, the Fortune 500 company have predicted that more than 70% of the Fortune 500 companies are moving towards America, USA. Around 9% of the Fortune 500 companies are moving towards, are in China. There's more than 20%, 30% companies already existing in China. More than 20% are moving away from China. So China will have the opportunity to retain only 9% of the Fortune 500 companies. And Europe and India is in a bad stage. That is around only 2.5% of the Fortune 500 companies can come to India. But ASEAN has the advantage, like Vietnam has the advantage of ASEAN countries will have the advantage of inviting more than 12% of the Fortune 500 companies into their country. This is the global scenario. With this kind of a scenario, how do we manage the situation? How do we empower our industries by bringing the appropriate reforms, the appropriate system, the GST implementation system, the GST tax collection system is called as a system which is creating all the problems. The system which has not consulted all the stakeholders of the auditing and accounting has been the grievance of the many of the auditors, I feel. Now, this system and the implementation of the GST has made a dent on the growth of the formal economy, that is the MSME sector and the industrial sector of the economy. I hope the government, how it is going to evolve a robust system, how the government is going to transform the existing GST tax collection system, the existing GST implementation, how they are going to transform is again a major challenge. With all these challenges with us, I feel certainly I am confident if the government is able to bring nearly around 50 lakh crores. I have written this necessity in Dinamani article, Michamellam Mucham Dodu. In the Dinamani 74th article, I have written around 50 lakh crore is the need of the hour to revive the economy of India. Now, within 30 days I have written the article, the minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, of the industrial minister, the MSME minister and the minister for ports, he has clearly declared we need 60 lakh crores to revive the economy. So certainly revive the economy, to make the money flow in the hands of the people and to create the purchasing power and also invigorate our economy, we have to infuse at least around 50 lakh crore investment or the loan from the multilateral World Bank and other financial institutions is an essential need of the hour. So with this kind of a scenario, how are we going to face it? So nation should have a clear strategic vision to become a developed country, make India as a developed country. This is essential. Dr. Kalam has built the foundation laid by Vikram Sarabhai from the space sector, D.S. Kothari from the defense sector, Homi Bhabha from the atomic energy sector, with the support of the Prime Minister from Jawaharlal Nehru, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Indira Gandhi, and Rajiv Gandhi, Narasimha Rao, then Vajpayee. With all the great Prime Ministers, Dr. Kalam has laid a foundation of bringing self-reliance in the space, in the defense, in the atomic energy, and also in the aeronautics. We have achieved near normal self-reliance, but whether we have achieved, how to achieve a self-reliance in our economy, in the three sectors of the economy, that is a bigger challenge in front of us, in each and every one of us. To achieve that self-reliance, we have to invest 3% of the GDP for the research, innovation and discovery. That is the primary part of it. So unless we put a research, and then we have to move towards industry 5.0 and make our society into 6.0. Japan has defined what kind of a society 5.0 they are going to achieve by adopting the deep technologies such as artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, blockchain technology, then biotechnology, then the nanotechnology, then quantum computing. These are the deep technologies. The research and innovation will make our life quality, will make the way of life, the way we work, the way we travel, the way we communicate, the way we do business, the way we transact, the way we transport, the way we interact. Everything is going to be transformed by adopting these technologies. These technologies are going to bring a major change in blockchain technology. By implementing blockchain technology, the bank in US is able to, a single bank in US is able to save $8 billion by just adopting the blockchain technology. That means the financial institutions are transforming itself by adopting the technology. The financial institutions are transforming itself by adopting the machine learning, the robotics for automating the operations. By automating the manual operations, the mundane operations, their performance is going to get increased in manifold, and they're able to concentrate on improving the business, improving the profit, and improving the quality of life of the people. The 5 days working is going to be reduced to 2 days or 3 days of working. That means the quality of contribution, it is going to, and the quality of life is going to improve, and the quantum of the work you are going to put with the productivity is going to improve. The agility and adaptability of our work is going to be improved in a multifold and manifold. With this context, how are we going to, as an auditor, auditing, or accounting, or a business professionals, how are we going to work for our vision? How are we going to base our foundation? How are you going to lay our foundation to achieve a greater role in contributing our professional ethics, professional standards, and also developing our knowledge to transform India into a developed country? That is the question. So, to meet this vision, we have embarked on a number of challenging missions which encompass central and state governments, public-private partnership, international partners, NGOs, and even motivated individuals. These missions are highly challenging to the success, highly challenging with many factors contributing to the success. There are many stakeholders to accomplish the programs meeting the mission objectives. There may be a number of uncertainties which would call for parallel approaches, contingency plans, and workaround solutions, and effective audit function with a continuous proactive forecasting outlook for successful completion of the project within the established code of conduct is the need of the hour. That is what I feel. For this, one of the requirements is to have a life cycle participation of audit as a partner. Audit is not as an independent authority, but audit should become a partner of the vision. Auditor should become the partner of the project. Auditor should become the partner of, that means it is not colluding with the company. It is not colluding with the government. No, you are going to do mid-course correction. That would ensure a full understanding of the program, full understanding of the mission, full understanding of the company to make an effective judgment of actions in public interest with respect to the established system and procedures. The focus of the audit should be to ensure that the money invested is in tune with the overall mission objective. So that the audit should become an enabler for accomplishing missions, meeting the objectives rather than ex post facto fault finder. No doubt, the system should be such that it rewards high performance and weeds out unethical elements. At the same time, the very act of audit should not become a delay column for the project. The knowledge of auditors for the given task has to be enhanced because the projects of the 21st century will have multidisciplinary inputs. The technology adoption for audit standards and the process is very, very essential. The process of audit has to become online. For this, it may be advisable to install e-governance system for project management and monitoring at the commencement of the project itself. The required information must be available to the audit team online. The CA students or the CA chartered accountants should adopt the technology for enabling the task of the audit. India has signed with the IFRS. You all know the International Financing Reporting Standards. India has signed to adopt the international reporting standards. India has in IAS, Indian Accounting Standards, which is computerized to enable the process. IAS is getting tuned with IFRS standards. Since 2015, it is being made compulsory for the big companies who have a turnover of more than 5,000 crore to adopt IFRS standard. I came to understand from 2018, the technology-enabled reporting standards through IAS has to be made mandatory for all companies. I hope you may be the right person to judge. Hence, as a CA accounting professionals, you should be familiar in adopting technology for your continuing education to upgrade the knowledge in auditing standards on the fly on your mobile or a tab through a cloud-based access. At the same time, adopt the technology such as paperless office system, dynamic workflow, and document management system through cloud computing and convert the day-to-day mundane jobs and processes into adopting e-governance systems. If you adopt such e-governance system, your productivity can be improved better, which will help you to concentrate on the main role, helping companies, helping the government and the projects by involving yourself in mid-course correction during the implementation stage itself on the project to achieve the desired result rather than do the post-mortem, the results of which are generally not adopted in the subsequent projects are not adopted generally, or it will take years together to imbibe the advice given by the auditors into the project since it has an inherent weakness in the systemic adoption of the present day governance. We have seen there is a huge hue and cry is created by CAG, but after the CAG creates huge hue and cry, political actions are taken, and then governments are transformed. Finally, nothing is happening. No transformation is happening. So, what is the mission for audit for the 21st century nation? A nation, when it enters to 21st century, what kind of the mission we should envisage? Such an approach will ensure completion of the audit routine almost simultaneously with the accomplishment of the project. Hence, the mission for the audit is 21st century should include the following. Number one, it is essential to be proactive enabler of missions, facilitating the program or project outcome as envisaged. Forecasting, second, forecasting of challenges for effective fiscal utilization and providing useful inputs for maintaining the momentum of the project. The third may be re-engineering systems and procedures to avoid mistakes. Audit can provide do's and don'ts to the executives based on the past experience and the practicability of field level implementation. Fourth, the continuous training of audit personnel on the modern trends of audit for carrying out specialized audit on development projects with a clear understanding of projects and programs. The fifth one may be the CAG in partnership with the organization can periodically conduct courses for scientific, technological, and managerial teams of the program on audit philosophy with the case studies how audit queries can transform into audit para, how audit para into oral evidence by a PAC and PAC recommendation. This will alert both audit community and technological community on the right audit path and right project management path and right technological path. Now, one of the other issue challenge is non-utilization of allotted budget. One of the general report, number of ministries, number of systems, they never utilize the allotted budget and then return the money. One of the general report comes out of the audit is the unspent money in many of the vital programs and missions and the projects. Why? For example, when we studied the utilization profile of the budget allotment, for example, the scientific ministries, when we did our scientific ministries, when Dr. Kalam was the 11th president, we studied what is the profile of the allotment, budget allotment, how it has been spent. To our surprise, we found that approximately 20% of the funds allotted to science and technology departments had remained unutilized. And in certain ministries, it was found that more than 50% of the amount allotted had not been utilized at all. And the donor ministry for the northeastern states, more than 60,000 crore has been unspent. So these are the findings which we found during our study when Dr. Kalam was the 11th president. Recent report on healthcare spending by the state government, it says most of the states failed to spend central funds on the health, and it shows clearly that around 6 to 8 states have spent ranging from only 0 to 28%. Only till 28% only till the end of January every year normally. Every year only 28% are spent. That means what is the problem? The problem is with the project, the problem is with the mission, or the problem is with the tendering, or the problem is with the execution, or the problem is with the implementation, or the problem is with the corruption or accounting. What is the issue? We have to check. That means this indeed, if you look at other ministries like Ministry for Road and other infrastructure development, completely will be utilized. That means any system, any project which has a knowledge input, which has a technological input are getting delayed. But any project which is on the road, bridges, or any other thing which is a conventionally whatever you can spend, they are spending more. So this is the kind of the revelation which will clearly tell us where the concentration of the government, where the concentration of the companies, where the concentration of the on the kind of the entire focus, which finally lead to the failure, which finally lead to, that means it is indeed a serious matter. Audit should find out the reason, the bottlenecks for the non-utilization of the funds. Since it is happening in number of states and ministries, they may also like to suggest the systemic changes required to improve the situation. While studying the CAG report, for example, we found CAG had conducted audit of rural employment generation program. The performance of audit of Jawahar Rozgar Yojana disclosed during the scheme suffered from shortcomings in the critical areas of targeting, inadequacy of the provision of funds, and then fictitious reporting, lack of evidence of employment generated. Based on experience, Dr. Kalam has suggested number of measures to the members of the CAG to provide e-governance based audit support system to the central and state governments for implementing provisions of the Employment Guarantee Bill of 2005. So that shortcomings which were noticed in the earlier scheme of rural employment generation does not get repeated. But till 2020, I think nothing has been done on that. However, we found based on the survey conducted in NGO recently and the implementation of the 100-day scheme, the rural employment guarantee scheme in different states, following the problems have been again come to light. As per the press report, rampant corruption, widespread irregularities, delay in payment, fewer working days, and lack of awareness. So, hence, Dr. Kalam has suggested Audit Advisory Committee to consider this issue and provide suggestions which can enable CAG to participate in the program and offer methods for smooth and transparent implementation of the scheme and focus on the objectives of the program and realization of the district development goals. Dear friends, as you are aware, the CAG is a de facto our National Chief Accountability Officer. The CAG's mission is not only oversee conformance to the rules and regulations, but on the basis of the unique experience and the database acquired by the CAG over the years to help improve the performance, transparency, and assure the accountability of the government to benefit of our people. Dear friends, with all the system, now I would like to conclude with one point. We need creative leaders for implementing such systems, for managing complex and large projects, and delivering the fruits of the performance to the people, whether it is a company, as a government, or any project for that matter. For success in all mission, we need creative leaders. Creative leadership means exercising the vision to change the traditional role from the commander to coach, from manager to mentor, from director to delegator, and from the one who demands respect to one who facilitates self-respect. With all these things, we need leaders who can create such a quality, the creative leadership quality. A leader should have a vision. A leader should have a passion to transform the vision into mission. A leader should walk into an unexplored path. A leader should practice transparency in each and every action. A leader should have a courage in taking decision. A leader should celebrate the success, should celebrate the failure, and celebrate the success. A leader should know how to manage the success and also to manage the failures. A leader should walk into an unexplored path. A leader should work with integrity and succeed with integrity. These are the leadership quality we need to adopt in each and every profession that we adopt. Certainly, I hope you have gone through various kind of a training program which will empower you as not only a professor, not only a professional, but a leader in your profession. I wish you all the best. My greetings and congratulations to all of you, and also to Mr. K. Jalabadi, the Vice Chairman, who has given a mentoring role and a leadership role in promoting this mission. My greetings to the entire Coimbatore branch of SIRC of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and the Karpagam Academy of Higher Education. My greetings to the past president and the guest of honor, the CAG Ramasamy, and also the Vice Chairman of the South India Regional Council of ICAI, CA K. Jalabadi, and all the other special invitees and the speakers, and all the professors and the students. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
And I request our Vice Chairman to thank our special guest of the day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for detailed insight to the auditing related profession and the current developments in the country and what we need for the future. All the things you have clearly explained. Thank you so much. Maybe this could be very much useful for the faculty members to, in turn, they will inform and request the students to develop the leadership qualities. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the faculty viewers. Thank you. Thank you.